Oh, going on to Angel and Greyhound Meadow. Yeah. It's lovely here, look. Oh, look at that. What do you reckon? Thank you. And we're on here. There we are. We're on Angel and Greyhound Meadow. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. Now, I'm making an effort to hold my camera still because I don't want to have to... I've only got limited amount of time to upload this, so I don't want to have to go through use the Steadicam effect. I came here once before. Excuse me. I came here 2 years ago to this spot, well, just beyond that gate, and I couldn't get through, if you remember. I made a film called St Helena Airport, and I filmed part of it outside that gate. I wanted to film the part of the film I made then. I wanted to film here on Angel and Greyhound Meadow, but I couldn't because the gate was shut, because basically there was some kind of infestation of sewage and rats, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but basically the council had shut this Angel and Greyhound Meadow off. The reason I wanted to come here because it was an island, because this is an island. There's many islands around Oxford. In fact, by some definitions you could actually say that Oxford is built on a series of islands in what we call the River Isis and what everyone else calls the Thames. I have been here when I was a kid. I've not been here since, but it's lovely down here. The reason was because I went to Osney for the first part of the film because I wanted to film on an island. Because I was discussing St Helena, which is an island. Now, it's very important actually, if you've not watched St Helena... Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. If you've not watched St Helena Airport, that is the precursor to this film. Really, you need to go and watch it, because it'll give you the background to what I'm going to talk about here, because I'm not going to repeat myself too much, because I don't want to go through it all again, and I've got limited time today, as I said. Link in the description box. You can check it out there, and you can see there is Magdalen Bridge in the distance. We'll go and have a look at that getting more closer in a minute. That is the Florrie building, which is student accommodation. It looks very esoteric and Illuminati to me, but apparently it's just students' accommodation. Now, in my previous film, St Helena Airport, I talked about St Helena Airport. Now, as you'll know from the video, St Helena is a very remote island. In fact, it's one of the remotest islands inhabited, one of the remotest inhabited islands on Earth. It's the closest land is 1,300 miles away, which is Angola in Africa. It's actually in the South Atlantic Ocean, and it's very small. It's only about 10 miles across. Has a population of 4,500, and it's extremely isolated. Its geographical isolation is added to the fact that it has no airport. Well, it had no airport. The only way to get to and from St Helena was by sea. And there's only one ship that regularly called there. It was the Royal Mail Service ship, St Helena as it was called. There's only 4 Royal Mail ship services, Royal Mail ships left now. Soon to be 3. But this ship, its closest port of call was Walvis Bay, Namibia, and Cape Town, South Africa, and those were about 5 days' journey away, which meant that a round trip to St Helena would take 10 days, and it cost a lot of money, which means there's very few tourists went there. Occasionally cruise ships used to call there, but because of weather conditions it was very difficult, because also this is another point, there's no harbour. There is a harbour, but there's no wharfs, there's no jetties, quays. Ships can't tie up alongside. All ships have to drop anchor off the coast and sort of transport between land and shore by launch, by boat. So you have to have a smaller boat to take goods, passengers and everything else between various ships and shoreline. So the RMS St Helena never tied up at any dock in St Helena. She always used to drop anchor and send her launches across with everything. And everything that came and went from St Helena came and went with that ship. Almost everything. A few other ships, but mostly that one. Now that's now changed. And I talked before about the airport they were building there. My first film was about when basically the airport just started being built 2 years ago. Well, that airport is about to open. In fact, by the time you have watched this film, it may very well be open. There's been some delays, but yeah, it's finished. The airport is done. Now, the St Helena airport has a long history. It was first proposed in 1943. There was lots of petitions and to-ins and fro-ins and people trying to raise the money here and there. And it's difficult because of St Helena's isolation, it has economic problems. Now, St Helena, like I say, there are people from St Helena who live in Britain today, and now Sargon of Akkad is one of my favourite YouTubers, and he's a saint, as they call. Well, he's a descendant from a saint. A saint is someone from St Helena. His granddad was from St Helena, so that's a bit of trivia there for you, which he talks about. But St Helena is part of the British Overseas Territory of St Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha, which is it's a territory that covers a vast area, but it is very, 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 very little in terms of surface area. It's just these few islands. Basically, Tristan da Cunha is about 3 islands. It's St Helena and Ascension Island, which are tiny islands very far from each other, very remote. Tristan da Cunha is the remotest inhabited island on Earth, or collection of islands on Earth. As I explain in more detail in the first film. Now, St Helena, like I said, has economic problems. I'm going to come back to this because this is directly connected with the airport. Look at my hat. It looks like I've got a St Helena flag on my hat, doesn't it? No, doesn't it? It does a bit, doesn't it? It's actually an Australian flag, which is very similar. I'll have to get a hat with the St Helena flag on. I really must. There's a Malden Bridge there where the students bop on May Day, and as you see, they keep their boats under there. So now have a look through here, look through the other, see what's on the other side of the river. The reasons for the airport are pretty obvious, actually. On one level, it's the difficulty of getting to and from St Helena. The fact that you have to go by ship, even in this day and age. I mean, St Helena has no native population. It was settled by the British in a few hundred years ago. The modern saints are descendants of those settlers, those early British settlers, and their slaves. That's why they seem to be mostly black or white. They're both black and white because they're descendants of these people. And see, look over there. They're punting. See, that is another traditional thing in Oxford. It's where people take boats out. These little boats which you propel with big long sticks, these big long poles that you push. You propel the boat by using those poles to basically on the riverbed. See, that's how they work. That's a perfect way to spend a lovely afternoon in Oxford if you're ever here. I see we're on the other side of the island now. The island is completely surrounded by the River Cherwell, but you could say, well, it's different branches of the River Cherwell surrounding a piece of land, but it is an island. I think of it as an island, just like Osney. Now, obviously, this is the difference. I mean, St Helena is one of the remotest islands on Earth. Angel and Greyhound Meadow Island is one of the least remotest on Earth. We just walked across it. This bridge crosses it completely in one span, and there's that little bridge we just walked across. Anyway, like I was saying, St Helena has awful economic problems. There's a lot of poverty on St Helena, as I explained in more detail in the first film, but basically there's a lot of issues to do with its industry. It doesn't export much. It can't export much because of the inconvenience of getting it from the island to the rest of the world, which has to go by ship, which takes ages, and so it's very expensive. And it's very difficult to visit because of that reason as well. You basically have to get on a plane for South Africa or Namibia, get on the ship, take 5 days later, it drops you off on the island, and you're stuck there basically. If anything goes wrong, this actually happened, right? The ship did break down at one point, and the saints were really worried because They have a few farms on the island, but basically all their food comes in on the RMS St Helena as well. So the ship delivers their food. So basically, the government was considering airdrops to keep them going. So there's that problem as well as an issue. I mean, the volcano. I mean, it is the remains of a volcano. I mean, technically speaking, but I don't think there's a danger from volcanoes. You see, the population of Tristan da Cunha had to be evacuated a few years ago, actually, because there was the volcano on the island erupted. Now, St Helena's volcano has not erupted for about a good couple of dozen million years, so it's probably not going to erupt again in the near future, so it's not a problem. But there could be any number of reasons why you might need to get people quickly off the island. And there's been actually, the airport has already become useful in that respect. So the actual British taxpayer subsidises St Helena by £25 million a year. Yeah, we actually do have to. It does cost the government money to keep St Helena going. It basically gives the island 25 million a year. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's worse things you could spend tax money on. I'll tell you, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Most of the saints, well, a lot of the saints can't get jobs on the island, and so they have to go and work elsewhere, abroad. Now, most of them get jobs in other British overseas territories, especially the Falkland Islands. A lot of them work in sort of they work as cleaners and cooks and things like that in the Falkland Islands. So they tend to do the sort of more lowly. I don't like saying that, menial, lowly, or whatever. But they tend to do those kinds of jobs. Hospital portering, for instance, in the big hospital in Port Stanley, probably the porters there are all saints. So if any of them watching, pride and dignity, brother porters from St Helena. But that's the kind of role they play. But a bit like the Filipinos in Saudi Arabia, because they couldn't get jobs on the island. Now, one of the problems there's a lot of practical problems with building an airport on St Helena. Now, if St Helena was as flat as this island, it wouldn't be a problem because you could just build a runway on top of the flat surface. But St Helena is actually very hilly. It's very mountainous, and it's covered by ravines, which the locals call guts. And in the end, they did select a site. It's on a place called Prosperous Bay on the east of the island. The island is kind of oval shaped. If you look at the picture, I've got a picture of an overhead view of it in the thumbnail to this video and in the titles. It's sort of egg-shaped. The airport is actually built on the eastern side of the island at a place called Prospect Bay. Now, they actually had to fill in one of those guts called dry gut. They had to fill it. Had to fill in dry gut, it's called, with rockfill, which had to be imported from somewhere else. It had to be imported from South Africa. Basically, they awarded the contract to a company called Basil Reed, which is a South African civil engineering firm. And Basil Reed, basically, the first thing they did was they built a temporary wharf on the east side of the island to act basically somewhere where they could land a ship and deliver all the equipment, all the machinery, all the rockfill. Everything had to be brought in because the island is so remote and you can't manufacture the raw materials on. There's no raw materials to manufacture these things on the island. No factories or anything like that. Everything had to be imported from scratch. It was one of the most challenging jobs that company's ever done. And they've got a video boasting about it online. I've been watching it. So the contract was awarded to Basil Reed. They had to build several things. What's interesting is they did build a wharf at Jamestown. So that's on the west side of the island, which is the island's capital, its principal settlement. I said earlier they never had a wharf there, so a ship could actually land. But they've now built one. So from now on, not only do the Saints have a new airport, but ships can actually put in there and dock, which makes it a lot cheaper and easier to travel to and from there by sea as well. It means cruise ships can get there more easily, things like that. So that helps as well. So that basically they needed 280 million cubic feet of rock fill. I don't know how many million tons that is, but it's enough to fill Wembley Stadium a dozen times over. That's how much rock had to be imported and used to basically build an actual plateau, an artificial mountain almost, 1,000 feet high and 6,000 feet long, to put this airport on. And there was lots of concrete was needed to hold it together, lots of crushed rock, a massive amount, a taxiway, an apron. There's a taxiway, there's a parking apron for the aircraft, there's a terminal, a control tower building, fuel tanks, and also a new road. They built a new road to connect the St Helena's, the airport in the east of the island, to the rest of the island, because most of the people live in the west part of the 10-mile wide island. There were several running design changes over the course of the building. Lots and lots, thousands of employees were brought in. Basil Reed employees were brought into the island to work on the project. Also, they managed to give some jobs to the Saints, so this is a good thing. Some of the actual St Helena population, the native St Helena populations, actually did get jobs in the construction project, which would have helped enormously, which must help them enormously. Now, this is really, really good news from their point of view. I'm sure they're really, really pleased. Now, it was originally going to open in September last year. That was delayed until May this year. That date has now been delayed indefinitely. Now, they have actually had a landing. They've last month, the first ever aircraft landed at the airport and took off again. This was a small twin-engine light aircraft. It flew in from West Africa, landed just to test just to check it out, just to test the landing and taking off. And then a couple of weeks later, there was a actual landing by a commercial airliner, a jet airliner, a Boeing 737 from British Airways, landed successfully on St Helena Airport, the new airport. And just a few days ago actually, they carried out a medical evacuation from there. Now this is important, this is the first ever time this has been done, and this is another benefit of the St Helena Airport. A mother who just had a baby, the mother and the baby were sick from the birth, and they managed to evacuate both the mum and baby to the mainland, or to South Africa probably, I think. Look at that, that's the River Cherwell, ladies and gentlemen. That's where the punts go up and down. Nice, isn't it? So we're on the other side of the island now. We just come from over there, around by the bridge, and now we're going to walk along the north side of Angel and Meadow. I don't think they're going to build an airport on this place somehow. I don't think you need it. So I mean, that did happen. And now the reason the delays happened again is because they've detected a problem they didn't know existed before. And that is something called wind shear. Now, if you're a pilot, you'll know what this is. Wind shear is basically an environment in which you get lots and lots of different air currents passing over the approach sector, the approach area, of different speeds. So this is caused by the mountainous terrain to the west of St Helena. It causes the plane will go along. Suddenly, it'll hit some very, very, very fast wind. This will then slow down. And it'll go from different pockets of air like that. So that's the problem. That's called wind shear, and that can cause a problem for aircraft taking off and landing. So that what they're doing is they're doing some more research to work out how bad the wind shear is. I'm just going to cross over here. I'm just going to have a look over here and see what we have over here. We have a bridge over. There's another little cut here from the River Cherwell. It's actually dry at the moment. All right, so this island carries on over here. Yeah. There's usually water in that, but there's usually two islands here. They've been split into this one at the moment. So that's the problem. So the wind shear is causing a delay in the official opening, but I mean it's only a matter of time before they get that sorted, and you'll switch on the news and you'll see official St Helena opening. Probably the dear old Queen, the queer old Dean, Her Majesty, the reptile, the Anunnaki reptilian of Buckingham Palace will probably head down there to cut a ribbon or something, if she's up to that. I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, they won't risk flying the queer old Dean in on a plane, will they? She'll have to go by boat. She'll have to go on the St Helena, the ship. So that probably won't happen. It'll probably be the governor, actually. The governor of St Helena is called Lisa Phillips, and she's not to be concluded with my friend Lisa Phillips, who hosts Cry Freedom Radio. No, this is another Lisa Phillips. She's the current governor of St Helena. So she's the representative of the Queen on the not only on that island, on the entire British overseas territory of St Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha. Tristan da Cunha and Ascension have their own administrators who are like deputy governors to run those particular islands. Come over here, and we're on the other side of the Cherwell again, as you can see here. There's the River Cherwell over there. So I'm going to walk along here now. So that's probably going to happen in the next few weeks. By the time you've watched this, St Helena Airport may very well be open, and flights will begin. I mean, they really badly want to be able to have non-stop flights from Britain, so they've had to redesign the airport to cope with aircraft large enough. And they're a bit concerned because they say, well, some aircraft can't fly at full capacity because of the to do with distance and fuel load and things like that. We'll just have to keep your fingers crossed, I think. But you will be able to fly to St Helena, which means it'll be much easier to get there and get back. It'll mean that visiting the island will be cheaper and simpler. If you have relatives there, Sargon of Akkad can go and see his granddad's family. Things like that, or you can go there as a tourist. It'll be a lot easier to go there. The ship, RMS St Helena, one of only 4 Royal Mail ships left in the world, is going to be retired. Now, as far what I hear is, she was built actually in 1963. I think she was first launched under a different name. She was then refitted in 1989. To become what she is today, a specialised cargo passenger ship, especially for the trip to St Helena and back. And she was called St Helena. It's very sad, but I think she's listed for disposal at the Breakers Yard. I mean, it'd be nice if maybe they could keep her on the island and just leave her there, and she could be a museum or something. But I think they are going to break her up, sell her for scrap, which is a shame. If that doesn't happen, I'll be very pleased if that doesn't happen. Now this is where it takes a slightly sinister position, and it's what we should expect really. That airport will be used for military purposes as well. That means it will be used for South Atlantic reconnaissance. The RAF and the Royal Navy currently operate aerial reconnaissance of the South Atlantic, mostly related to the Falkland Islands and the conflict with Argentina over that. But it could of course involve other things, any purpose really. It could even be used for the continuing issue with Southern Fuel and the black goo situation there. The black goo and the little blue aliens or whatever they're called. Now that's a long story. Hang on, I'm just going to wipe the lens. That's a long story. You need to watch David Griffin's stuff on that. I can't explain it to you now. But it could be that St Helena Airport will be used for operations related to that. This is not to be surprising. I mean, Ascension Island has an airport on there which is used primarily for military purposes. Already, it's basically the South Atlantic reconnaissance is currently based there, and the transports between Britain and the Falkland Islands often stop to refuel there. So St Helena will become another of those positions. But again, I suppose the point of view is what will this mean for the Saints? We've almost come full circle, you see. Now, what this means for the Saints. Now, on the one hand, now this is where we have to consider a few things. I did bring up in the first film. There are advantages to having the airport there, and those are completely and utterly inarguable. It's not open to debate that the airport will be enormously beneficial, and the Saints understand that. But in the first film, as I explained, at the time I made that film, 2 years ago, June 2014, there was still a divided opinion among the island's population over whether they should have the airport or not, whether the airport was a good thing or not. Perhaps some of them understood the things that I did, because on the one hand, of course, it's going to cause a massive boom in the economy. it's going to be enormously beneficial. We're going to see a soaring standard of living on material terms there. Sure, a lot of people, you know, the people I suppose will suffer. I suppose the crew of the ship, including the delectable Miss Henry, they're going to be obviously put ashore. I hope they find jobs. I hope Miss Henry gets a job at the airport, maybe sorting the baggage or something like that. I don't know. Something nice anyway, like that for her and for her shipmates. And it means, of course, the Saints can come and go far more easily. They can, you know, the outside world is now just a couple of hours away on a plane rather than 5 days away on a ship, and it will cost. I mean, some of the islanders are too poor to even leave the island. And if they want whoever they're going to stay with, they have to have someone to stay with in the rest of the world, in the outside world, and the outside world has to pay. You know, you have to ask their relatives to send them the money, basically. But at the same time, you know, being open out to the outside world can be good or bad. Now, on an economic level, as I've explained, it can only be good. It'll be an enormous boost to the economy. It means probably the island will eventually become self-sufficient. It'll probably get a lot of tourism through the airport. The 25 million subsidy won't be needed anymore. It could even start to make a profit, and it could actually start you know, importing stuff and buying stuff from abroad and stuff like that. But there's that, as I say in the first film, and I go into more detail there. What effect will this have on its culture? I mean, how much of that unique island culture will survive exposure to the outside world? Because what we've seen is small, unique cultures in isolated areas of the world often do not survive an encounter with the outside world. They do not last. And that's my concern. I think from what I saw when I watched those films about St Helena, that's the concern of the Saints, some of the Saints too. Even some of the kids, you know, are worried about it. Now, there's always a sense that some kind of renaissance is going on there, because I mean, there's now an official St Helena government YouTube channel. There's lots of the St Helena people are YouTubing, which means they probably improved the internet connection there already. Before there was very little internet connection. Now they've probably got a lot more. So, yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is that these people, like anyone who lives in a unique island culture. No, I'm not going to have a Boudica moment, no, but I feel I do get that sort of sense that I'm edging towards a Boudica moment, but I'm not going to have one. But I mean, you can't say that St Helena is a pre-Illuminati culture. It's not. It was founded by the British Empire. It's a product of the British overseas East India Company. It was used by the East India Company. Basically, the ships used to restock St Helena between India and Britain before they built the Suez Canal. So it's not a pre-Illuminati culture. Not like Britain was before the Roman Empire. But it still has that uniqueness, it has that special... Its isolation has protected it from maybe some of the malaise of the globalist world. And the Saints, I think, need to be aware of that and need to protect their uniqueness. And I think some of them are aware of that from what I've seen. So, except what I mean is that they should accept the benefits of the airport, but not let it go to their head where they turn their back on the potential hazards of opening the gates of their little chateau to the bustling, roaring, globalist world. Because, as I say in the first film, it's always sad when these little island treasures disappear. And they disappear simply because they get swamped. The globalists artificially created synthetic Illuminati cultural meme is just so strong. It's designed to be strong. It's designed to gobble up and digest smaller morsels it encounters. I wouldn't want to see St Helena go that way. So I'm not, as I said, I've never been to St Helena, let alone have lived there. So I'm speaking as an outsider, but that doesn't mean that I should just not say anything. Because I think perhaps the people there will will heed my words, although I think some of them already have come to these conclusions themselves. We'll see what happens anyway. There may be a part 3 to this little series of films on St Helena. Thank you for watching Panwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.